Attention gamers. AP Ezreal is one of those things in life that is truly timeless. It's like the Margot Robbie scene from that movie about cash and cocaine, aka it will always get me hard, but in reality this build makes you weaker than my grandma's joints, as your auto attacks are just a visual decoration which makes doing 95% of things in this game insufferable after 10 minutes, but it's universally agreed to be worth when you can enable your swag aimbot, play a custom game against a bunch of piss-awful Twitch viewers and farm those sweet dopamine clips. But today I'm here to tell you that there's a way for this to not feel like total dogshit for half the game, and it revolves around avoiding a few mistakes that everyone makes. For starters, maxing W first is a bait. Doing this makes farming about as feasible as snorkeling in the Bermuda Triangle, as its AP scaling won't be stronger than your Q with just base AD until you have at least 1 or 2 items, so it's literally a damage loss early anyways. Not to mention almost every item for this Ellen DeGeneres when you want to play at AP is going to be severely lacking in the ability haste department, so you rely on landing a lot of Qs to reduce your cooldowns. In other words, you will want to be dishing out Qs more than Logan Paul releases shitty cash grab products. The next mistake is by starting the purity ring. Sure, Beyonce once said if you like it then you should have put a ring on it, but unless Queen Bee has sunk thousands of hours of her life into this bullshit game, I would advise you to listen to my silver hard stuck ass and build the bloody letter opener instead, so you can actually farm early and generate income. Then instead of rushing one of these tit suckers, it makes way more sense to rush Lich Bane. We already know that a Sheen rush is the knees to the bees for any normal Ezreal build, so why deviate from that when there's an option to not suck total asshole early when playing him AP. The base AD proc will carry you through the early game, and then once its power falls off you are conveniently upgrading to the Bane of Lich, which switches the scaling from base AD to AP. Paired with the fact that you used your brain cells and maxed Q first, you now have an early game build where you can farm, your cooldowns aren't long as shit, and you aren't useless dead weight in early game fights, which is all you need to do to line up that dopamine filled late game. The last step to ensuring you properly get fed is by fixing your diet. Class, I want you to picture a man we'll call Franklin. Franklin is depressed, out of shape, and on the longest lost streak of his life. He's alone, and fat, as he eats his processed TV dinners that taste like shit and slowly fill his body with chemicals, affecting his appearance, his mood, his ability to attract a mate, and his ranked climb. If only there were a way to improve all of this and save money at the same time. But then he has a revelation. It's like he is seeing color for the first time in his life. He learns of a meal delivery system called HelloFresh. The invention of the internet was lame before, but now that he knows, he can simply navigate to a website to browse delicious healthy meals that are portioned, prepared, and ready to be chefed up. Gone are the days of him having to raise his own cattle to get a quality piece of meat. He places his first order using Rav's discount code on the screen to get a dank discount, and a box arrives with all of his super fresh ingredients. He fools the world into thinking he's a Michelin star chef. His body transforms, women fight for his attention, and most importantly he starts winning his games. So if you want to be like Franklin to change your life with the best meal plan and get 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life, use my link below and code to try it out today. Hey, we're back. Not sure how that ad got approved, but anyways, I want to show how with Qmax Lich Bane, if I get ganked by some 8-eyed samurai, you can see that I wouldn't be able to rely on a W combo killing anyone, so having Lich Bane Qs are needed to not feel like a bag of dicks this early. You see, even 20 minutes into a game that I'm fed, don't look at my farm, my W pop combo isn't anywhere close to one-shot status, and this way if you aim your ults at bot side krugs instead of the enemies, your auto attacks will still glisten with a beautiful sheen. And you want to know what happens when you are actually able to get fed early on AP Ezreal? Your team still wants to give up because your Nasus has 40 fucking farm at 23 minutes with a build that looks like he lost a bet, and your Darius full out left the game, so you lose a 4v5. But not all league games end this way, that's just like 70% of them. You see, with a Qmax Charlie Sheen start we can get in a certified shit fest at the 7-minute mark. I can say, hey, I know Pike is low, but let's make sure there's just 2.5 men left before we focus our efforts on chasing, and because my Qs don't hit like limp dicks, we can actually pull a 2-for-0. Their Talon is prepping for a smite off with a Bloons tower defense turret, while I'm rubbing the Chovy poster on my wall hoping I can absorb some of his power as I flash and blink like an eye with shit in it, which keeps me alive enough to fizzle tickle the Pike for some assist. G's. Then if you are wondering what happens when a silver elo support reads one guide on proxying waves and completely misunderstands everything on it, this is what happens, and if you slow down the clip and watch it 60 times you'll see that my W pop only does about 25% of his health, so without Qmax or an early sheen this free kill would have looked more awkward than that time Miss Kif tried to play basketball. In this game I tried just sitting on my sheen and getting baited like a jizzing pork sword into rushing mage items, and while it did result in a clip or two of that fat one-shot oxytocin, the glooming shortcomings of doing this became embarrassingly apparent when I got in a 2v2 with their team's tank and a fucking gromp as I filmed a flash for a fail montage, and then it happened. So here's the thing, you may think rushing Lich Bane isn't the best idea, but when you've been killed by a literal diabetic frog NPC it's considered rock bottom and the time for you to reconsider your life choices. So with that, let me display what a proper game looks like when you get fed from start to finish from building it correctly. I start the douche dagger so that timing last hits doesn't feel like I'm eating my own shit, and my support knows that the best way to play Nautilus is just to walk at people regardless of minions or where the lane is, because fuck it, and I'm all for that level of bullshit as I blink into Bursty Boy the Lizard for first blood. This fun's a sheen shizzy and a tone that's been amplified, so the next time we say surprise threesome to League's closest thing to a professional cosplayer I have enough damage balanced across all my abilities to burst her down. Then I back and make a wise investment for my future, one that will bring me the most returns, and when I get back to lane you can see that no one is fooling my big brain 200 IQ. I counted their minions and I'm pinging that one doesn't look right, which is impressive. Impressive that I still managed to die to that bullshit. It's not like 2 minutes later I realized the same exact thing when I saw an extra bastard melee minion, but turns out getting hit by a missed skill shot is enough to put you back in black and white, and this small setback will serve as the start to this Nico becoming my nemesis. But here's the thing, you think you've merely adopted playing League and falling for the same stupid mechanic twice in a row. I was born in it, molded by it, and I will get back on track. I'm already sus on the next wave because I know she isn't gonna pull that trick again as she emerges and tries to give us visuals of what happened to the Titan submarine, but Gator don't play that shit anymore as I potassium punch a hoe back to base with a large spectral banana, and I would have got her butt buddy too if Mr. Waternoose didn't randomly show up. Speaking of the Bane quote, I now have the Lich to go with it, and so when a little tiff breaks out near the Rift Equator I know that Jarvan the Third Son isn't going to be real receptive to my damage, but my Qs can pepper him up before my next big AP saute comes in big to sizzle that shitter out of existence. Then I take one look at my support and say, you know, this Nico has taken the form of a lot of things this game, but I think it's time she looks like a damn dead bitch, and he agrees. That said, I don't know what it is with kids today, but that Nautilus saw someone else wear the dead bitch costume and got jealous or something, so he insisted he had to put it back on himself as I Amazon primed a large glitter-filled luminescent crescent to be delivered straight to that Godzilla crab. I now have a second AP item build, and even though I Q-maxed, my combo is strong enough to play a game of Surprise You a Dead Bitch 2, which looked like a double until you realize it was just that fucking tie-dye lizard being an insufferable bag of dicks again. Anyways, a big fight breaks out over if Wendy's Krabby Patty is a scam or not, and while I arrive fashionably late I say I think an actual crab is bias in this argument, but then instead of backing out and waiting for cooldowns I remember I maxed Q, so I rejoin the fight and proceed to miss my next 6 abilities before planning to cut off J3's grown-up sperm cell, but then their bot lane volunteers as tribute to my Hunger Games and they both manage to lose. The team fights continue, and to be honest I'm 200 gold from my Rabbies, so I just want to play the outskirts like I'm a Halo 2 campaign map, but then there's Miss Hoppy, I'm so sloppy that has to be taught a tough lesson, so I let her fund the rest of my hat. With the sorting hat in my possession I see clearly which chicks are going to be the easy Hufflepuff hoes and which chicks are going to die in a single combo, because I am still holding a grudge from early game, but then I'm in a pickle, so I make a move for the nearest rift clit and use it to escape through Baron Pit. Quick damage check on a build where you rush a sheen item and max W last. Good enough for a clickbait thumbnail. Maybe I should see if Skewch has any that I can steal. Anyways, I'm so fed you'd think my first initial was K and I had an ugly divorce with Britney Spears, but you may notice the kill count is pretty even, which is a long-winded way to say that my teammates were a bunch of mouth-breathing Neanderthals, so I was going to have to whip out the A penis and rack up a bunch of public indecency charges. But it turns out with great responsibility comes great power, or some saying that is to reflect that I clearly wasn't equipped to carry a bunch of gray crayons when at 5 items I still almost had an embarrassing incident where a bloodbath temporarily turned into a tickle fight. So I want to leave you with the anecdote that if you follow these steps and build AP Ezreal correctly, then you too can lose a 45-minute game and still hate yourself after. Hello Fresh says goodbye. Rav out.